You're listening to the Flex Success podcast, where we teach you how to be less shit.
I'm your co-host Lizzy, and this is Dean. We'll be covering all topics relating to health, fitness, and bodybuilding.
Join us as we use our in the trenches experience and up-to-date science to provide you with information that you can actually use.
If you like what we do, be sure to give us a like, follow, share, and tag us on social media.
We are back with yet again another very special guest on the podcast today, joined obviously by co-host Lizzy. Welcome, Lizzy.
Hi, Dean.
And the big man himself, Mr. Mike Pearson. How are you,
Greetings.
sir?
My heart's beating so fast right now. I'm so nervous to be surrounded by, to be connected online with two of my favorite people.
It's so nice.
He knows how to start off a podcast, Liz. You know?
Yeah. Do you know what? We are smart and attractive and assertive, so I can see why you're nervous.
I'm honestly, if my heart's beating through my chest, my blood pressure right now would be 190 over 100.
Maybe we should continue to check it just to make sure that you're not going to cark it on us, because this is a very important period in your life, mate. We're what, just under 5 weeks out from our first show together, which I'm looking forward to. But we'll talk about that throughout this podcast. But
is it really your first show together? I thought you guys have been coaching for quite a while.
We have.
Oh, we have. We have been coaching together for quite a while, but this is the first show.
Okay.
We'll jump into it in a second, because this has been a long time coming. But Mike, mate, for those that don't know who you are you, what do you do, and why do you do it?
Who am I? Well, I guess every day I'm still trying to figure that out a bit more and more, I guess. But what do I do? Like, obviously I'm a competitive bodybuilder. That's why we're here. That's what we're talking about. But outside of that, I've got a sports nutrition business that I run, Transparent Supplements. And why do I do that? Well, a few reasons, but bodybuilding is my passion. I love bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is what I enjoy on earth more than anything. Like, even if I didn't gain muscle or get bigger, I would still do it because I just love the routine and the structure and the entire process. As part of that, sports nutrition, it's interwoven in what I do for a passion, plus it contributes to what I do. So I guess that's why I do it, because I love the business aspect as well. That's something else that I do have a lot of passion for, is the business side of things. And while I might not be the best at it, I'm continually getting better and better. But I love the design element of products as well. Like, I love formulating. I love putting together the packaging. I love the process of creation, the whole creativity process. I really, really enjoy that. And by putting together products that I want to use myself, I'm often finding that other people want to use them too, because I don't want to use anything that is subpar, and anything that I do create is an extension of myself. And if I want to hold myself to a certain standard, anything I create needs to be held to that standard as well, from flavor to formula to packaging. So it's just something that I love to do, and it works well with the lifestyle that I choose to live, because I mean, I bodybuild, I'm a competitive bodybuilder first and foremost for myself, because it's just something that I have inside of me that I want to do, I love to do, I enjoy to do. But as a byproduct of that, the more involved I get, the more shine that gives to the products as well. So yeah, it's a beautiful synergy. I guess they work together in a beautiful level of symbiosis.
And do you know what? I think that it's no secret that the supplement industry needs a little bit more integrity. And you definitely give it that, being that you have an interest not only in the finances of the business, but the quality, because I heard you say that it's an extension of me. And I love how connected you are to your products, and you wouldn't put bullshit out there because you're not bullshit.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the name itself, Transparent Supplements, says it all. In a world where supplements that are hidden, you know?
Dude, no proprietary blends. A prop blend will not be found.
Yeah. It's it is unfortunately true, man. Like, I've been involved in supplements before, for those that know me going back a while now. And even in the creation of those, there was always a period of time with various companies or brands that they would hit a point where they'd go, yeah, but could we put a cheaper ingredient in? You know,
See,
can we shift the margin? And I'd be like, but for what? For like, but then I can't sell it.
exactly. And you don't want to sell it because you don't believe in it. It's much easier to sell when you truly, truly believe in it. So I like to use a lot of trademarked ingredients in products, and trademarked ingredients are ingredients that have clinically supported health benefits. So they can't be disputed, essentially. So when putting together a formula, I will throw the absolute fucking kitchen sink at it. And when it comes back at $70 cost price for a 600-gram tub, which is just not feasible to be produced when it needs to essentially retail for that much, that's when I start to strip back and be like, okay, now we'll start to pull things back and find the right price point so that we're delivering the best possible product for a price point that is reasonable for everyone involved in the transaction.
Yeah, got to be practical. But
Yeah.
boys, I want to hear about your coaching together because Mike, you are an incredible athlete. Can someone please go and Google this man if you're just listening to this and don't know what he looks like? He's very impressive. I want to know how you got into bodybuilding
Wow.
and how you found your way to Dean. And I have so many questions once we get there.
Yeah, please ask as many as possible because I have a sparing amount of glucose being provided to my brain at the moment, so I might not be able to think of what to say unless I'm prompted.
Okay.
So what was the first one? How did I get into bodybuilding?
Yes.
Okay, so from a young age, as I think a lot of young males are, I was always attracted to that superhero physique, like cartoon characters, Arnold Schwarzenegger, this type of person. And my father always, despite not exercising a great deal, always had a muscular, strong physique, and he is quite a strong man. So even from a young age, like I can remember back to being like 5 or 6 and just seeing a big chested man with a big back and just thinking, okay, that's gangster. That's sick. I always really admired it. But I never really got into weight training until I was around 18, 19. And the reason I got involved was growing up, I was in some I made some silly decisions growing up, and that led to me being spending a bit of time in juvenile detention. And I got to the point where I was doing too much of the wrong thing, making too many silly decisions, partying too much, getting involved in things that I shouldn't have been involved in. And I knew that that wasn't the path that I wanted to go down. And whether it was not knowing where I fit in, or whether it was a cry for help, or whatever it was a phase that I went through. And I got to a point where I just thought, like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, I'm more than this. I'm more than what I've become. I need to aspire to a bit more. And I saw pumping iron for the first time, very generic, but the way I came about it was a bit different for me. I feel I saw pumping iron for the first time and I thought, wow, that's awesome. And then it sort of connected back with all the thoughts and feelings that I had younger growing up of admiring strength, admiring power, admiring a muscular physique. And I thought, why don't I start going to the gym? Why don't I start going to the gym? So I did. And that's how it kicked off for me.
Okay. Wow. Do you know, me and you have gotten to know each other a little bit through some athlete development calls that we've done. And one thing that I noticed was that you really feel like you are in the driver's seat of your life and you are in control of where you go. And it's really interesting to hear that even as like however old you were when you were in juvie and you were like, this isn't the life for me, I can change this. That's always been a part of you. I didn't realize that that happened at such a young age.
Yeah, well, and honestly, I can't explain it, but it's just, I think inherently within us, we all know when we can be doing better or doing more, or when we aren't living up to the expectation that we have of ourselves. Because I've always had an expectation of myself. And at that point in my life, I wasn't living up to that expectation. And I'm not sure where that expectation comes from, where it was spawned, where it was birthed, but it's always been there. And any time in my life that I haven't lived up to it, I've had like an alarm bell ring in the back of my head saying, hey, dude, you're not living up to your expectation of yourself here. We need to do better. We need to do better. And it's not like a negative thing as far as like I'm beating myself up. It's you're really not making the most of your time here on earth because it is limited and you only get one shot at it. It's not a dress rehearsal. Like, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to waste it doing this, or do you want to make a bit more of it?
Yeah, I can see that voice going one of two ways. Like, hey, you're not living up to the expectation. What can we do to make this better? Or that voice, which is your voice, which is very helpful. Or there's the, you're a piece of shit, you're not doing good enough. There's that sort of like self-defecating voice that I think that could turn into for some people.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And there might be a process of that, a period of that, but it's important not to stay there either. It's important to realize that too, because as we know, Liz, that is an unhelpful thought.
It is an unhelpful thought. We might talk about unhelpful thoughts a little bit more later, which is something Mike and I have discussed.
Yeah, it is interesting because, like, I'm obviously subjected to a lot of emotional men in the work that I do, and there is a drastic difference between the success of an individual, literally physically, I'm talking here, when I see the undertones of their communication about themselves or their stories they tell about themselves, in somebody like yourself, Mike, who says, I can do the following better, as opposed to I am a piece of shit, or I am shit this week, or I have done shit this week. It's a testament to you. It's an interesting one because, like Liz said, this is something that even in times when it maybe wasn't perfect, there's always been an element of you thinking, I can probably do better here, or what can I do to do better, as opposed to just saying you're doing bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
People often confuse like a bad day or a trait that they need to work on. They internalize that as them being bad. Like, it's there, these are elements of ourself that we could work on. This was a singular day and tomorrow was a new day. It's like you're not always representative of you as a person. And I love that you're able to kind of separate that, Mike.
Well, I believe that it all starts with our thoughts, and it might sound generic. It might sound like a quote that people have read off a page on Instagram, but our thoughts become our reality. They truly do. The way we think about ourselves, the way we think about situations, like that's what determines our reality. And if it's constantly thought of I'm shit, yeah, you are going to be shit. But if it's I'm not necessarily stoked with where I am, I can probably do a bit better here. At least that's going to get you moving in the right direction. Even if it's slowly, it's preventing you from being stagnant. You actually start taking steps in the right direction. And before you know it, those fractional benefits across an extended period of time accumulate, and you're in a less shit position than you were before.
It's probably worth pointing out to listeners that we don't have to worship ourselves and think that we're only fantastic. It's more like, a relatable example. I'm in the gym and I see someone do this exercise I've not seen before. I'm like, oh my God, that looks like it would give them the best pump. Like that looks like I'd really hit the spot there, blah, blah, blah. I'm really going to try that. And when I try it, it hurts. And, I get that pump feeling. I was like, oh, that's incredible. I haven't been able to get a pump in my delts for a few weeks. Whereas someone else might look at that and go, oh, that looks really painful. Imagine the type of like agony I'm going to have to push through in order to, complete a set of 12 or whatever. Like we're both getting the same feeling, but I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. It's the way that I'm relating to that feeling.
I consider people normies. I refer to them as normies. The people that like see that anything we do as painful or uncomfortable or a challenge that they're not willing to undergo. I'm like, normie. I don't want to even really engage or let you infect me with your bullshit. Too much of a normie.
Okay. All right. I normies,
I know that this lifestyle we're the abnormal ones. Yes, yes. I know that in this lifestyle that we live, we're the abnormal ones, but
yeah.
to me, we're not. To everyone else that doesn't engage in this behavior is a normie.
Okay. So someone who like can't, I don't know, like deal with a little bit of hunger.
I could never do that. Like that type of shit.
Self-defeating beliefs.
Just not willing to have a crack, just not willing to get uncomfortable for something greater than themselves.
Yeah. I do think though that being willing to be uncomfortable, putting a positive spin on things so that it's easier to do the action, or the action is actually enjoyable. I don't think it's a talent. It's not some sort of like God-given thing we're born with. I do think it's a skill and something that we need to develop over time. And so for those who are listening who feel like, oh, you know, maybe they're not in that place yet, it's not like you failed until the point that you're amazing. It's like if you're learning a language, you've not failed until you're fluent. It's a process. You're going to suck at first. Old habits are going to stay with you until you intentionally break them over time, and the new thing becomes automatic. I think like, yeah, that's probably a good way of framing it.
And new discomfort is almost always the most discomforting. Like, it takes a while to get used to it. So where I'm getting at that is, like, I think like I grew up having to deal with adversity in losing in sport, in being pushed physically to the point where I was like wanting to throw up, to, you know, having super high expectations on how much like self-study I did, you know, in sport. So like doing bodybuilding to me wasn't very difficult because it was just an extension of my childhood. But if somebody is like trying to shift, you know, or go down a different path, and they're not used to having these uncomfortable moments or sitting with discomfort for a while, it's gonna be pretty you know, it's gonna be like, you know, the first ripping off of the band-aid. It's gonna hurt initially, and it's gonna take some time. And I think two people are too short-sighted in when they want to make the change, of that first bit of discomfort pops in and they go, oh, this is very hard. Like, yeah, it is, because you're not used to it. But it's, you just got to build some tolerance and build some, you know, some ability to like I said, tolerance to handle that. So
cultivate some mental fortitude.
Yeah.
Mike, sorry, you go.
I just said cultivate some mental fortitude. It's like if someone's to walk into a jiu-jitsu class that's never done jiu-jitsu before, you're going to get subbed a million times. You're going to suck, but keep coming back. You'll learn a hip escape, then you'll learn the next thing, then you'll learn the next thing, and then you'll gradually be able to submit someone else. But no one starts at the top, unfortunately. You have to swim up the river of shit initially until you get into the crystal clear Evian water.
Which still has like little floaties of shit sometimes. It never gets perfect. Have you done jiu-jitsu before? How the hell do you know what a hip escape is?
Well, I've attempted jiu-jitsu before, and Dean said to me, don't do it because you'll get hurt. So I said, okay.
It is so injury prone. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear about your how you started coaching with Dean, and I want to hear about your prep with him. But how did you guys connect?
Would you like to initiate this, Dean, or do you want me to?
It'd be interesting to know if our story is the same.
All right, I'll tell my story and then you tell yours.
All right, go for it.
Okay, so the last time I competed, 2021, I posted a video hack squatting like 340 kilos, like a week out from a show. And I got a strategic comment from Dean. I believe it was strategic. Have you always done this? And I was like, he's questioning me. And I was like, yeah, I've always done this. This is what I've always done. So I'm just going to continue to do it. You know, I've been doing pretty well in my shows up until now. And then I that was the week, I believe, after I'd won the overall in New South Wales, and then coming into the Nationals, which I then lost a pro card decision by 1 point by someone who definitely deserved to beat me on the day because I wasn't my best on the day, Brad Dwight, and congratulations to him. But was it within my capabilities to beat him if I approached prep correctly? Yes, absolutely. I believe it was. But he did win fair and square. He was better on the day. And so after that, I was thinking about it. Obviously, I want to get better. I don't want to sit here and wallow in my shit for too long. I thought, that motherfucker commenting that on my video, he knew what was, he knew. So then I reached out to Dean, and that's what got us started together. That's my story. That's my version of events.
But Mike, how did you get from this motherfucker to, hey bro, can I start coaching with you?
Well, one, obviously, Dean has a host of phenomenal athletes that he's coached to success. He's someone that I've always respected and someone that I've always admired. And I just, I thought about it, and like looking back on the situation, I was so in the trenches at that point, so tunnel visioned on what I was doing, that I would have ran through a brick wall. If someone said, the only way for you to win this competition is to knock down that brick wall, but you can't use any tools. You can't use your hands, your feet. The only thing you can use is your head. You have to headbutt your way through it. I would have done it. And that's pretty much how I approached the last prep, just like an absolute psychopath. And I was able to look back on the situation and see that maybe eating fish and sweet potato 5 times a day, doing 30,000 steps, hitting PBs and training like a powerlifter every single session for a bodybuilding show isn't the most effective approach. I need another level of knowledge here that I currently don't have.
Okay. And Dean might have it.
Dean has it. He has it.
All right, big boy, what's your story?
I mean, he's nailed it.
Okay.
No, like I was honestly genuinely curious because as a, you know, in all honesty, like a fan who had sat from a distance and watched Mike do this prep, I actually had noticed that it was a very emotional driven prep, because it was like you could see he was putting up all of the steps he was putting up. He was showing all of his training. It was kind of like this return to the stage, I believe, too, since the pec injury, Mike.
Yeah.
Yep. So like Mike had a pretty bad pec injury a few years back prior to that. And it was this sort of like, you know, this hype being built, and he was peeled, which I obviously appreciate. And I would see him, yeah, he squatted 340, and I think it was like 5 or 6 days out. And I just thought, like, fucking hell, like, I don't know if I would do that. So I just thought I might ask the question, is this what you would always do? And it was semi-strategic to at least start the conversation, because I knew at the time that Mike was self-coaching, and I was curious as to the thought process.
Did Mike give you an answer that made sense to you? Oh,
yeah, I mean, to his credit, he just answered it pretty straight. He's like, yeah, man, I've squatted like this. I've done this all the time. Like, I always squat this heavy, this close. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay.
And while that squat itself in isolation may not have been the cause of him not winning, you know, I think like the mindset associated with that is always, I saw that as like, once we started speaking with coaching and having, again, like watch Mike from a distance, I see people like him or individuals who like really have the capabilities to work fucking hard, maybe even in the presence of a less than optimal approach, as like a carrot being dangled in front of me that says, oh, if I can grab this and you know, harness the work ethic and put it into a place that is like done in a far more like well thought out approach, imagine what could be.
Right. So, like, you see the potential in people who will headbutt a brick wall.
Yeah, like if you've been able to eat fish and a rice cake, for those that have ever watched that video, fish and a rice cake for an entire prep, and you've gotten peeled, then I know that you have the capacity to withstand some stress. You know, if you can train to legitimate failure, I know you have the capacity to work hard. Then it's a matter of, like you said, harnessing potential. And you know what's funny, Mike, I don't know if you've got a light there you can turn on, but the first time that Mike and I actually spoke on a consult call, I was like, yeah, man, he like reached out to me. He's like, hey, dude, like, you know, is coaching an option? I said, let's catch up and chat. And he got on the call in pitch darkness. So for those that are on YouTube now, it was a reminder to me then. I don't know if you remember this, Mike, if you can still hear, but the moment we got on that first call, it was darkness when you got on. And
yeah, I do remember.
And I was like, do you want to maybe get some more light? He's like, nah, I'm comfortable here in the dark. I was like, all right, sweet, no worries.
What did you do that for?
I do prefer it. I just prefer it. I don't know. I just something about artificial light, artificial heat. I just hate it. I just like things to be natural, except for me.
Lol. I like things to be natural. All right.
So okay. Yeah, it was a pretty much that. It was definitely strategic.
Dean, I'm curious to know, looking at Mike from a distance and now actually knowing him very well, because you've coached for, I don't know, 1.5 years or something, you tell me.
No, like 3 years.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Has there been any surprises? Is Mike different to what you thought he might be?
No, actually. Only because I think that I saw, like, so I knew that Mike would want to work fucking hard. I knew that there would be a period of time whereby we would have to, you know, break down the emotional attachment to training and try and redirect that energy in a manner that was, you know, manageable long term. Okay. You know, like that was one thing. And that has happened. It took time, you know. I knew even just from Mike talking on social media that there were times that he would doubt himself, and I knew that would be something that we'd have to deal with, you know. And there's been tremendous growth in that. Um, I think like most of it has actually all come to full fruition as to where my expectations were. But I think in the last like 18 months, we've really seen Mike come into his own. Like, it's like all of those years of training and, you know, the battles and, you know, self-doubt and all these sorts of things have kind of come to this head in this last like 18 months where it all was just like figured out. And then there was little bits of additional stuff like this little sprinkles, like the athlete development stuff that he did with you, where now I'm like seeing Mike's potential. Like, it's as high as it possibly could be right now in this point, I think, which is super exciting for me as a prep coach to see it come to full fruition. And then, like we said, I don't know if we said this on the podcast before I hit record, but to even finally meet each other in person in about 5 weeks. So
yeah, we were saying before we hit the record button that these two have never like actually met in person. So
which
crazy.
is so strange to think, which is just, yeah. Like I was saying, someone that's had such an impact on me in more way than one and never met in person. It's hilarious.
Crazy. So my question for you is, Dean any different as a coach or as a person than you thought he would be looking from the outside or when you started?
Dean is almost like the most perfectly well-adjusted robot in existence. Like,
I agree with that comment.
Just such a perfectly fine-tuned, well-adjusted, programmed robot that just acts in such a manner of so much certainty, but so well adjusted and so confident, but like no room for deviation. Just boom, straight down the line. This is how it is. Let's go.
Yeah. He's clear and confident without being cocky or without being a know-it-all, I think.
Now. For sure.
So now, maybe not the past.
Don't worry, I'll rip you down and keep you in check, boy. We're all good. Now tell me about your prep, because Dean said that you're 5 or 6 weeks out. I want to know what this prep's been like. What are you guys doing? What are you focusing on? What do you expect to happen?
Well, it's definitely different to any contest prep that I've ever done before for a few reasons. I think, you know, the basic stuff. You know, I'm on more food than I've ever been. I'm heavier than I've ever been. I'm more muscular than I've ever been. I'm leaner than I've ever been at this point. But aside from that, like the mental approach has been very different, where, you know, Dean mentioned earlier, the last time I competed, there was a lot of it was shown on social media. And it's almost like at that point in time, I wasn't doing it as much for the expectation of myself as I was for the expectation other people had of me, where I used to really care about that, where now I couldn't give a fuck. Now it's more, this is what I'm doing. Just wait for this plane to go over.
It's okay. It's not actually catching in the microphone.
Oh, cool. Now I'm doing this because it's what I want to do. I'm not doing this to prove anything to anyone aside from myself. I've got nothing to prove anyone to other than I want to know how good I can be. I want to know how good I can look. And it's not for validation. It's not for anyone's approval. None of that means anything to me. Like, I don't care about a following. I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. I just want to know how good I can truly be on stage.
And that your Pomeranians are proud of you.
Exactly. They always are proud of me. They're proud of me for walking through the door when I get home.
That's so the beautiful thing about a dog. No, Liz, this is the reason perhaps why even it's taken so long. So, you know, like when we first consulted, however long ago that was, I said to him, like, oh, is there a comp on the horizon? He said, at the moment, I just want to, you know, improve upon what I'm already doing. And we'll talk about comps when the time is right. Maybe we might put a 12-month goal on it, right? And then it got to about like 6 months out from the potential consideration for comp number one. And we're like, all right, let's do a little bit of a diet, see where we're at. Not just yet. I don't think that I'm satisfied with the progress that I've made as an individual. On to the next phase we went. You know, and then there was always me, like, is this one going to come about? Because as a coach, I'm excited to get Mike on stage, right? Because I'm seeing progress every year. And it's just like, no. I'm not personally satisfied with the level of progress that I've made just yet. It was never about like, oh, I think I could win X comp or I want X particular accolade or anything like this. It was always like, my progress is not currently where it needs to be in order for me to be satisfied with the prep that we're about to embark on. And then there was this one that was like, I think I'm ready, Dean. This is the one. And I think it was maybe even like the third or fourth time we'd spoken about a potential comp over the last 3 years. And to his credit, and this is, I've seen this every fucking time at every prep, anytime anybody is trying to run against a prep, like there's resistance to the process, that almost always is the most difficult prep that I've had with an individual. Every time it seemingly is just falling into place and like the person is just riding the wave of prep, including the difficulties, man, it runs easy. And like this prep thus far is
of someone who's resistant to prep.
Some people are like, I want to compete this, the end of this year because I've got a wedding next year, or or they just have a time specific goal. Like we speak about this all the time, and again, like something that Mike does very well is being process focused and not outcome focused. People that are always like so hell bent on this particular outcome, I find like, and then there's resistance within it, like they're fighting against hunger all the time, or they're fighting against like their lifestyle choices, or their work is very difficult and they're always like in deficit of sleep, and they're fighting against this. Like it just makes prep fucking hard. Whereas everything has kind of come to a head here with Mike. It's like there's all this work that's been done in the back end, and then all of a sudden it's just kind of like, yeah, we've just eaten a little bit less food for the last like 2-3 months. He's continued to train as he was, and here we are. And the crazy thing at the moment, Liz, is when we first started, Mike was 125 kilos. It was 124 and a half, I think, when we first kicked off, and we did some fat loss. He was a little bit like undertrained compared to where he'd been in the past. And he's currently 125 and a bit kilos. So like we've almost completely like just eaten up the old guy, and we're just going to produce a new one for a moment.
Man, that's crazy. So it sounds like all the stuff that is fallen into place, which sounds accidental, has actually been really intentional and really deliberate, to the point that, Mike's maybe forward thought and thought like, okay, what might the problems be? How could I adjust my life so that I can kind of anticipate these hurdles and push them over before I get there? Is that right?
It's been about definitely getting a few things in line for myself. But more so, as Dean mentioned earlier, just knowing I was ready, being satisfied with the level of progress that I'd made, because once I'd made that level of progress, this is now something I want to do. It's not something I'm fighting against. I'm flowing with it. I'm moving with this prep very easily because I want to do it. Where, if we'd chosen to do this 12 months ago, there might be that little bit of resistance. But now that I'm very confident in the amount of progress that I've made, I've essentially completely recompositioned my physique and I'm heavier than when we started. I want to do this. I'm flowing with it. I'm moving with this prep very easily without any resistance because it's something I want to do. And, it's always easier to do something you want to do opposed to something that you do not.
What's your stage weight going to be, Mike?
Pardon?
Your stage weight?
Heavy.
I don't know.
Honestly, heavy. Who knows?
A lot. Okay.
Yeah. I originally thought
it's about the look.
It is about the look. I originally thought that Mike would be a sub 120, like when we kind of started prep, because it was about the right number that I thought would be about what he would pull off. But again, you flow with the prep and it makes a difference. And I don't know why car analogies always work, even though I'm not a car guy, but like I can kind of like think of prep like this. If you were to drive to the same destination in a car, and one of them was like really picturesque and one of them was like really batshit boring, but they both take the exact same amount of time. If you can make prep like the first one instead of the second one, it makes the process so much easier, and you feel like you get there easy. You feel like you get there quicker. Like being hungry is almost exciting when you're like flowing with prep, because it's a recognition of the fact that you're probably losing body fat. Like
you can feel it. You can feel it. I can feel sitting here, fat just evaporating off my body. I can feel it. I don't
think that's how it works, but it's a nice analogy.
It is how it works. I'm exhaling fat through vapor in the air.
Well, actually, that is true.
That is true.
Yeah,
what's funny though, Liz, is Mike's not the first person that said it, and even though I know that it's not true, like I've felt it in prep too. You have these days where you're like, I am burning through fat today.
Feel it. Yes.
My mum and her friends. Go on.
I was just going to say, like, I can feel when I'm sitting there, I can just feel my ass drying up. I'm just like, oh, this is going to be lean tomorrow.
I remember Dean saying when he was in his prep that you know you're lean enough when it hurts to sit down because you're just sitting on your ass bones. There's just
Or you
no.
sit down and your asshole just touches the seat. You're like, wow, that's never happened before. Like, how did that happen?
You're
Yeah,
like, oh, I hope I wiped. Like,
Yeah,
Dean came out of the
exactly.
shower once and he was like, I went to wipe my ass and it was just like straight to the butthole because there was nothing in between the cheeks. Was that you that
Ass
said that,
kisses
Dean?
the seat, just
yeah,
kisses it when you're done.
you just don't realize how much fat is between your butt crack until you wash between it when you're lean and you go, oh, it's so easy to slip through. Like,
Oh,
what's happening?
dude, I was having this conversation with someone the other day. It just slips right through there. You don't have to
Yeah.
fight through like this gigantic blubbery mound.
And then depending on you could put, like, for those that are watching home, you could put like your hand in between your butt crack. You could clench your cheeks and you could almost still sometimes feel like there's space.
Like you could karate chop between your butt cheeks
Yeah,
and
like
not.
like how it's like trying to put your finger between your elbow and then closing that gap, and like you feel tension, right, and pressure. But sometimes you like get to the point where you're so lean, like even the pressure doesn't exist that much between your ass crack. You're like, wow, like this is an interesting moment.
This should be part of your
Right
check-in
now,
form. How many centimeters of space between each ass cheek?
Yes.
how much dilation?
Too good.
Yeah. So this prep has been very flowy, which is fun for me to watch from a distance. Mike's one of those individuals though, like for me, that is uh a challenge in that it actually hasn't been so much the case with you just yet, Mike, thankfully. And I think that just comes down to managing the process a bit better. But with big guys like Mike, you can see weight start to disappear real fast. So it's a matter of now at the moment, like we're kind of ebbing and flowing between trying to find the right amount of food to continue fat loss, but not so little that he starts to rapidly lose weight. And then we have to then try and catch that back up again. So right now we're like really nicely just dipping off where we need to be. And again, I think that's a testament just to the sort of the entirety of the process and how Mike's sort of focused on it. Which I'll say this: one of the biggest wins that I think Mike's had in prep, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this too, Mike. Is he's now aware of like how hard he has to train in order to stimulate tissue to keep it, not how hard he thinks he should train. And I think that has been a huge, huge learning curve in managing fatigue, not just in the prep, but also in his off season, because we've been able to put back to back to back to back weeks in without seeing any issues with injuries and niggles and all that kind of stuff.
I couldn't agree more because if I look back to the previous prep, it was essentially training like a power lifter and everything was just redlined 24/7. And again, that was almost because I felt like it's so gay to think of, but it was almost like I had an expectation from social media of, oh, Mike's known for being strong. He needs to post videos of him being strong. And it's almost like that got put in the back of my head. And again, once the last contest prep was over, and I was like, what am I doing? Like I've posted way less on social media over the last 3 years. I've been a lot more process driven, focused on what I need to do to achieve the best outcome for myself, not what looks cool to people. And part of that has been being a lot more specific and intentional with the training that I'm doing, opposed to just lifting up heavy barbells as many times as possible. And like placing tension specifically, abiding by rest periods, utilizing tempo, all that.
Have you found that more personally fulfilling than getting, because I assume that you got more likes and attention on social media when you were posting the things directed at that? Like, have you found that a challenge to maybe get a few less likes or something?
Uh, to be honest, no. I find it so liberating to just not give a shit. And like spend more time in the real world than the social media world, because I think so many people get, and look, it is part of our lives and it is a tool that we can utilize to our benefit, but it's important to keep it as that, I believe, not something that self-worth gets wrapped up in. It starts to consume your identity because you start to lose who you are and you start doing things for what other people want to see, opposed to doing what you actually want to do. So yeah, I guess over the past 3 years of being far less active on social media and, not like I've had lots of pro bodybuilders and things that have always supported me in the past and stuff like that unfollow me because I don't post as much. But do I care? No, because that's not that's like, I want to live my life for me. I want to enjoy my life for me. I want to enjoy bodybuilding for me, not for them. So yeah, it's just been a lot about focusing on my actual life and the outcome that I want for my life and how I want to live and who I want to be, as opposed to what other people's expectations are of me. And it does feel a lot better. It does feel a lot better.
Just another clear example of a man in the driver's seat of his own life. So many people are just passengers. Like, what does the daddy algorithm want from me today? And like, where should I choose a holiday that will look nice on social media? Like, just kind of going with the flow. And yeah, not you. Love that. Love
Yeah.
that.
It's important to take a self audit every now and then, just be like, whoa, ease up, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd much rather be impressive in person than on social media anyway.
100%.
Shame that you're impressive neither in person and on
It's
social
true.
media.
It's
Yeah.
true. When you disappoint in both aspects, it's, one of these things. But I mean, it would be nice if people could actually just post on social media what they wanted to, and not necessarily what they thought would generate more likes.
Sometimes I just like posting the shittest things on social media. Like, and I love when someone that's like super famous, like I don't know, Hugh Jackman or something, they can just post the shittest resolution, low quality photo and it will get so much attention, but it's not because of what they posted, it's because who they actually are. Like people admire them for who they actually are and what they've achieved as opposed to who they're presenting themselves to be.
Mm. Well, yeah.
I think this is where I think like high brands are testing people's like their how easy they are to follow trends. So maybe you should try this, Mike. When you compete and then you get all of this hype again, you should bring out something that's like incredibly ugly, like a really ugly dad hat, or a really
Nipple
bad shirt,
tassels. No, bring out
whatever it
nipple
may
tassels.
be, and then you should sell this online and just see how many people purchase it because you made it.
I'll gladly do that. I'll gladly do that. I'll make a vomit flavored fucking pump formula and just see how well that goes.
Yeah.
You know what I think you should do? Because you're a creative guy, hot pink hat, paint your nails. You should bring out a line of beard jewels so people can have like danglies off their beard.
Ooh,
Yeah. I
that's
think
such a cool idea.
it'll be a hit. It'll be a hit.
I'm digging it. I'm into it.
Now, Mike, we would love to talk to you forever, but time is a ticking. So maybe we'll wrap it up with our last segments. The first one being, we like to finish the episode with a less shit tip. So if you're to leave the listeners with a take-home tip, what might it be?
Well, this is something that I've learned, and that would be being conscious of your thoughts and having the ability to think about your thoughts and whether those thoughts are unhelpful or if they're helpful. And if they are unhelpful thoughts, learning how to acknowledge those unhelpful thoughts and then start to replace those unhelpful thoughts with thoughts that are actually helpful and
Okay.
start to retrain your brain essentially so that you default to more helpful thoughts than unhelpful ones so that you can continue to move forward. So being conscious of your thoughts, thinking about your thoughts, and being able to replace unhelpful ones with helpful ones.
I feel like this is a can of worms that is so worth opening up, but maybe a separate episode because, Mike, this is something that me and you worked together with. Why don't, if you're interested of jumping on another episode, we can kind of unpack that a little bit because I know it's something that's really helped you and will probably help other people. What do you think?
For sure. I'd
Cool.
love to. I'd love to.
Love it. Yeah. So metacognition, do you remember that term? Is when we think about our thoughts, when we bring into conscious awareness what we're thinking. And then Mike was finished talking, he talked about diffusion and something called self-directed neuroplasticity, which is when we So experience-dependent neuroplasticity is when our mind changes depending on our experiences. But because Mike loves to be in the driver's seat of his life, he self-directs how his brain changes by thinking helpful things, and eventually that becomes automatic. And because we know that our thoughts direct our actions, we want to be having helpful thoughts, which is, something that can remove the resistance between us and success. So yeah, let's do that, Mike. Let's jump on another
Sure.
one.
I'd love to, because it's definitely that's something that Liz and I worked on together, and it's been massively helpful for me, and I'm sure that so many other people could benefit from it too. So if we can broadcast that together and help more people, then we are contributing to society. Go us.
Look at us go. Look at us go. Okay, something worth sharing is our next quick segment. Do you have something that you think that our audience might benefit from?
Yes, something worth sharing. Pump juice, which is our non-stimulant formula with 4 trademarked ingredients, added creatine hydrochloride, packed with nootropics. It's a 600-gram tub, 30 grams, serves more active ingredients than any other non-stimulant formula on the market, designed to massively enhance cellular swelling, blood flow, and nutrient uptake. Stacks perfectly with stimulant product. Listen to this sales pitch. I feel like I'm doing Daniel's Direct right now. I just want to shut up. If you want to try it.
And
give me the link. I'll put it
any
in the show notes.
Any knives, or like, do we get like a knife sharpener with this if we buy 2, or no?
Yeah, if you buy it right now, only for the first 48 customers, a free ladder that opens up and extends even further than a normal ladder.
Wow.
And throw in a free home gym.
Wow.
Well, I mean, that's just bands, right? That's just bands. With COVID in the past, everybody knows now if you've got a door, you've got a gym.
Oh my God. All right. Final one, I believe. Would you rather? Mike, you have 2 Pomeranians. Would you rather?
Oh, here we go. This is going to be a sick, demented question. I can feel it already. Yeah, go.
You choose your favorite Pomeranian and passionately tongue kiss that Pomeranian for 90 seconds.
Well, that's a long time. That's a long time even to kiss a female.
Yeah.
That's ages. That's more kissing than I've done in the last fucking 6 weeks.
Hey, prep life. All right. Passionately kiss this little Pomeranian. Like what? A 3-kilo Pomeranian against a 125-kilo man?
In Mike's current state, he may end up eating it.
It's very hungry. Or not feed your dogs for 72 hours.
Oh. Not feed them for... Can they drink water?
No.
No water.
It's winter though.
Oh, look, she's giving you a lifeline with winter.
You are a cruel mistress. Okay. Well, I just feel like that their kidneys might be in severe renal failure if they don't consume any water for 72 hours. So, and I feel like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just kiss the dog passionately for 90 seconds, because my partner, my girlfriend, Angelica, should be so proud of me for doing that, so that they didn't go without water or food, that it would just get me like in her good graces eternally, and that would get me a get out of jail free card for in the future. So there, I would kiss the dog for 90 seconds.
Okay, the dog might need a little doggy psychologist after this, because his dad made out with him passionately for 90 seconds.
No, I'm not going to choose him because that's gay. I'll choose the female one.
Okay. Well, she.
It's just bestiality, but it's not gay bestiality.
On that note, everyone, we will see you in the next episode.
Yes, we will. But before we go,
Mike,
yes, if anyone wants to find you, even though you are hiding from social media, you're not really, but where can they find you? Where can they find your information, mate, if anyone does want to reach out?
So Instagram would be the best spot. Instagram for my personal account is Mike Pearson with an _. The business account, Transparent Supplements. And then also Paul Sidis and I host a podcast together fortnightly, Barbell Bros, which is just Barbell Bros with, I think, an _ at the end of it.
Cool. We'll put all of those in the show notes.
Beautiful.
Thanks for coming on, mate.